Imagine you have no dating app, no profile to swipe, no algorithm matching you to someone 3 towns over, no way to filter by height or income or whether they want kids. Just you, a group of maybe 30 people, and the slow accumulating weight of living beside someone every single day. That is how almost every human love story for the first 200,000 years of our existence actually began. And here's the thing nobody thinks to ask. Did it work? Did people fall in love? Did they choose each other? Did they feel the specific electricity of wanting to be near one particular person more than anyone else? Did they pine? Did they grieve when they lost someone? Did any of it feel the way it feels now? The answer is yes. Completely. Documented. Undeniable. And the story of how ancient humans loved each other is one of the most human things you will ever hear. We're going to go through all of it today. Let's start with what we actually know versus what we assume. The assumption most people carry is that ancient human relationships were purely functional. You paired with someone because they were strong or fertile or useful. Love, in this telling, is a modern luxury, a feeling that required civilization to emerge, something that needed poetry and novels and romantic comedies to even become possible. That assumption is not just wrong, it is backwards. The biological machinery of romantic love, the racing heart, the obsessive thinking, the specific attachment to one person above all others, predates civilization by hundreds of thousands of years. Neurologically, falling in love activates the same reward pathways as food and water. It is not a luxury. It is a drive, as ancient and as urgent as hunger, which means ancient humans didn't fall in love despite their difficult circumstances. They fell in love in the middle of them, completely. Now here's where the evidence gets genuinely fascinating, because we can actually see it. Not in written records, obviously, but in bones. At a site in Italy called Valdaro, archaeologists uncovered 2 skeletons dating back approximately 6,000 years. They were lying face to face, arms wrapped around each other, foreheads touching. Buried that way. Deliberately positioned that way by people who wanted them to remain together even in death. We don't know their names. We don't know their story. But someone looked at 2 people who had loved each other and decided that the right thing, the only acceptable thing, was to bury them holding each other. That is not a functional decision. That is a romantic one. But the evidence goes much deeper than burial positions, because attachment, the specific, individual bond between 2 particular people, leaves traces in behavior. And behavior leaves traces in archaeology. Ancient humans appear to have practiced something recognizable as pair bonding long before recorded history. The evidence comes from multiple directions simultaneously. Skeletal remains showing 2 individuals buried with shared grave goods. Cave sites showing evidence of long-term occupation by what appear to be small family units rather than large communal groups, including some of the oldest human art ever found, depicting what appear to be couples, figures standing close. And here's the part that stops most researchers in their tracks: jealousy. Evidence of jealousy in ancient human populations, suggested by patterns of violence, by the ways graves were arranged, by the symbolic objects found associated with individuals, pushes the existence of pair bonding back further than almost any other evidence, because jealousy only exists where attachment exists. You cannot be jealous of something you don't care about losing. You cannot rage at betrayal if there was never a bond to betray. Ancient humans were jealous, which means ancient humans were attached, which means ancient humans loved. Now let's talk about something that tends to make people uncomfortable: choice. Did ancient humans actually choose their partners? Or were relationships arranged, assigned, traded, purely social transactions with no emotional content at all? The honest answer is both, and neither. And it depended enormously on the group. What the evidence suggests is that ancient human societies were far more varied in their relationship structures than we tend to assume. But here is what cuts through all the variation: grief. When we find ancient humans buried with extraordinary care, with flowers, with grave goods, with objects that clearly belong to a specific relationship, and when those burials appear to involve someone burying a partner rather than a family member or a child, what we see is grief of a very specific kind. Not the grief of losing a useful person, the grief of losing an irreplaceable one, the grief of losing the specific person, the one whose presence shaped how you moved through every single day. That grief is love. Looking backward, here's what the full picture looks like. Ancient humans fell in love. They formed deep specific attachments to particular people. They grieved those people with a specificity that tells us those relationships were real and irreplaceable. They buried their partners holding them. They made art that included them. They carried objects that connected them to people they had lost. They pined. They jealously guarded. They chose, within whatever constraints their society imposed, to be with the people they wanted to be with. The feeling you get when someone you love walks into a room has not changed in 200,000 years. The neurochemistry is identical. The fear of losing them is identical. Ancient humans loved each other the same way you love the people you love. Completely. Specifically. Without any guarantee it would last, and without any way to fully explain why it was that particular person and not someone else. Some things have always been exactly this complicated.